Morning, everyone. Welcome to a grand final preview of 2023 NRL Grand Final with Troy Warner from the Paracade Podcast. You hear the Duckman as well. It's going live on Duckman TV on Facebook and YouTube too. So it'll be straight out there later on. And Troy and myself are going to be reviewing everything to do with the grand final, some interesting stats on bits and pieces of stuff, and just have a good old chat. Troy, how you going this morning?
Going good, mate. It's grand final day. It's for rugby league fans, the best day of the year for the team, for the fans that are in the grand final, the best day of the year.
Yeah.
Only wishing Parramatta were there like last year, but
Yeah.
never wasn't to be. But look, I'll still be watching the game, and yeah, it's grand final day, so yeah,
Yeah.
can't wait.
So hearing a lot of people say at the moment, in tied in rugby league, the back end of it, they reckon this is going to probably be the best grand final in years. So Brett Kamali said it this morning on Sunrise as well. So do you think they're talking about that because of the fact they think it's the two most competitive sides on display at the moment? And surely the one they're comparing it to, so they think it'll go down with the great grand finals of all time. There's two, or three they refer to, the Penrith one in 2003. And then the next one up the chain is the Broncos versus the Cowboys in 2015 when Cowboys won it in extra time. And they still rate Balmain and Canberra in 89 as the best grand final. Do you think that's what they're going back and comparing it to them three?
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be a close game, obviously, with the teams finishing first and second on the ladder. So they've both got each other's measure, I think. They've both won one game against each other this year out of their two meetings so far. So look, in terms of greatest grand finals, well, yeah, look, 89 obviously ranks right up there and still does, even, nearly 30 years later. Well, yeah, 30 years later. And that was a great game. It had so much. It had everything. It had Mal Meninga's ankle tap on Mick Neal. It had the penalty for the play of the ball. It had um, the
Yeah,
obviously Benny.
Blocker and Ciro got subbed off, and
Yeah, they weren't too happy about that, and yeah, it was a Benny Elias field goal. There we go.
yeah,
That hit the crossbar. So there's plenty in that game. The 2000 and I actually prefer the 2015 grand final with the Cowboys and the Broncos. That was for me. That was, I guess, obviously being a little bit older, and watching the game for a bit longer. It probably ranks as my favorite grand final. Just the sheer excitement of it. Just that last minute try to Kyle Felt in the corner, and then that goal kick attempt from JT from the sideline, which hit the side post, and then the Ben Hunt drop ball,
off the
and
kickoff. Yeah,
yeah, off the kickoff, and then the field goal from JT. So that one probably ranks as a great grand final for myself. Look, there's others as well. I mean, there was the Cronulla Melbourne grand final a year later.
yep.
That and that had a bit of that was a bit of a classic. I think no one knew who was going to win that one until Andrew Fafita crashed over, and then they won their first premiership. Um, yeah, so there's been a few in recent times, but yeah, this one is certainly shaping up as a great game for sure.
Yeah. I think any grand final where a team's won their first, it's going to go down. They'll say it's an iconic grand final. So uh, you'd give that one the Canberra 89. So you just look at the Canberra side that had Steve Jackson, Laurie Daly, Ricky Stewart, Bradley
Yeah,
Clyde, Gary Belcher, like they had nearly
the
an
who's who,
international
isn't
team.
it? Mal Meninga,
Gary
um,
Coyne, Sam Backo, all
Ricky
these guys,
Stewart.
Peter Jackson. Yeah, stacks of like players. Like West Tigers got told, oh, you can have some of these guys at the moment. Surely you'd be jumping on that bandwagon, going, sign them up.
Yeah, definitely. look, they were the champion team of the late 80s, early 90s. They made the grand final in 87, so a little bit of a stepping stone for them there. They lost to Manly, and then they had to do it tough in '89 too. I think they had to come from like fourth or fifth spot to make the grand final. So they had to pretty much win every game
Yeah,
in that year. And yeah, their star-studded side, and then they went on to win against Penrith in 1990, and then lost to Penrith. So those 3 years, they could have had a three-peat in those 3 years.
yeah,
And then after that, Brisbane came along, and they could have had a three-peat as well, but winning in 92, 93, and going for that in 94. So look, it is a hard thing to do in rugby league to get a three-peat. It's probably even a little bit harder now in a salary cap era, where there's so much restriction in terms of who you can sign and the players that that you can sign, the money that you can spend. So look, it's hard to do.
yeah. Oh, it is 100% hard to do. So that's why grand finals they're hard to get. Looking at this Brisbane side, because I know what Penrith's got at the moment, it's hard to say where it's going to end for Penrith, like because they're treading on new territory. But this Broncos side, when you look at them, when they've had good sides that have been in in the grand finals, the Broncos have tend to use that side and go on a bit of a run over a period of about 5 years where they've been right up the top of the comp. So I'd be thinking, given that sort of history on what's happened with Brisbane and how they build their teams, that I think they're on a bit of a dynasty run here too, where they're probably going to have sides now that are going to be pushing for the grand final for the next probably 3 or 4 years moving forward as well.
Yeah, look, that's certainly an interesting one. I mean, Reece Walsh is pretty young. Pat Carrigan's pretty young. Payne Haas is pretty young. The
Yeah,
only question
Flegler.
mark,
Yeah,
yeah, Flegler as well, although he's leaving to go to the Dolphins next year. The only question mark there is probably Adam Reynolds, who's probably coming towards the end of his career.
yeah,
Um, he's probably looking at maybe another 1 or 2 years in the team. So certainly, if they can, they certainly might be around for the next 2, 3 years. I don't know how much longer after that. I guess it sort of depends if they can find another Adam Reynolds or another quality halfback. Because as I said, I think he's probably maybe 1 or 2 years left in his career. And he is a major linchpin in this Brisbane side.
yeah. Now, we talked a lot throughout the year, so I probably raised it for some other people raising about Jerome Laws chatting around. So the balls I heard thrown up in the air, so it was from some media guys in Sydney, actually tell me on the side, they think he's a serious chance of, like, keep bringing up the Roosters. They still think he's a serious chance of
Okay.
dropping in with the Roosters because he's with the Panthers from next year, as far as I know. So his opportunity is going to come up 2025. Is that a viable thing? Or is he going to be looking at like a West Tigers and George Illawarra, Canterbury sort of deal?
I guess it just all depends on Jerome and what he wants to do moving forward. I mean, if Penrith win on well, today, then he's won 3 premierships in a row. He's played in 4 grand finals. Um, yeah, he's
What's your
played.
motivation? Yeah.
Yeah, he's played. I mean, obviously, players want to win premierships. That's what they want to do. A lot of people do say they want to earn a lot of money as well, but players want to win premierships. And look, he's done that. And maybe he wants to stay part of this Penrith side to create a dynasty there and win premierships or have the chance to win premierships and create that dynasty. But look, it just depends on where he's at in his career and what he's looking at moving forward and in the future and financially as well, because he'd have to take a pay cut to stay at Penrith. I don't know. I don't know about the talk about the Roosters. I mean, they seem to be involved with everyone that comes off contract for some reason. Um, they've lost. Or there was talk that Angus Crichton was leaving to go to rugby. They've lost Suoliti. Um, to rugby in, I think it's what, 2025, I think. So
Yeah,
there's a little bit of money there, but they always seem to be linked with somebody who's
yeah,
coming off track. But I mean, if he went to the Roosters are in the game to win premierships. So if he wants to win more premierships, well, then they're in the business to win premierships. So um, he would probably go there and probably on a little bit less money than what he is on now. I mean, the Roosters, they got Luke Keary and um, Sam Walker there at the moment. So um, what do you do there? I mean, Luke may be coming slowly towards his end of his career, maybe. I'm not too sure how many years he's got left. He may be a 14 role, maybe. And then Jerome Stark. I don't know, but I don't think he'll go to the Roosters.
yeah. I think a lot of guys would be happy to if you could pick up a guy like Jerome or someone that's going to complement your side. That meant you had a bit of a 14 role, so off the bench playing a bit of a utility player like Luke Keary very well could. If that happened, I don't see too many guys are going to complain about that if it's going to complement the fact they want to win competitions too. So there'd be lots of people waiting to see how all the pieces drop. Um, so being a grand final special, let's have a look at what are some of your special grand final moments over the years? So we just talked about three big grand finals. So like the 2003 one's up there for me with Penrith, in the sense Penrith they became the best side on the park that year, but the Roosters side they were playing against were probably iconically up the top. So being one of the best sides for about a 4 year period heading up to that. They were in 2000 grand final against the Broncos. 2001 they weren't in it because that was the Knights for Parramatta. 2002 they were against Warriors and they won. And then they're heading into that one as well. So they'd had good sides. What are some of the big moments that you stick out in your mind from any grand finals of things that have happened?
Yeah, look, so many. I guess, as I mentioned, the 2015 grand final, I was watching it and literally jumped out of my chair when Kyle Feldt scored that try. Yeah, I just could not believe what had happened then, and then that 5 minute period after that, that was just I was on the edge of my seat and couldn't believe what was happening. Look, obviously a disappointing moment was my first ever grand final, first ever Parramatta Eels grand final that I went to. It was 2001.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously that was a disappointment of the result, but it still sticks out in the memory. Look, I remember watching the '89 grand final on the couch, still in my PJs or lounge, you could call it. It's still in my PJs because back in those days they had all three grades. Um, Under 23s, reserve grade and first grade. So I think the first grand final kicked off about 10 o'clock or 9:30, 10 o'clock, and then I think it was midday for the second one, and then 3 o'clock for the main game. My first ever, I guess you could call it, viewing of rugby league was the '86 grand final. And that's how I ended up supporting Parramatta as well. Not because they won, but it just coincided that they did win that day. So that's my first vivid memory of supporting Parramatta, the '86 grand final. What else have we got? Well, you got your '97 grand final as well, Manly and Newcastle. That was another unbelievable ending as well, with Joey Johns going to dummy half and then flicking the ball inside to Darren Albert. He goes under, practically under the post, and Newcastle win their first grand final. Um,
What about 95 when Canterbury beat Manly and Terry Lamb retired? That was a pretty big game too. I thought um, it was a tough grand final. So, and I would have thought Manly might actually be favourites in that grand final, but that Canterbury side were pretty good that won that comp that year.
yeah, I think Manly were favourites. I think they'd only lost two games or something like that all year, and I think one of them was the grand final. So uh, they were favourites, and they had a bit of a run from there, 95, 96, 97. They only won the one premiership in 96 against the Dragons. But yeah, that 95 grand final, my memories of that is Jimmy Dimmick offload to, I think it was what, Steve Price, I think, playing for
Yeah,
the Bulldogs then. For the first try in the grand final, I think it was. Pricey was I think a late inclusion into the side.
yeah,
Um, I can't remember who it was for, but
yeah,
late inclusion, and yeah, Jim Dimmick, he got, I think, Clive Churchill medal that day.
yeah. I remember one of the St George grand final sticks, both of St George grand finals, 92, 93, stick in my mind. But trying to remember which one it was. One of them, Jason Stevens, played and started and had a compound dislocation of his thumb
Yeah,
and came off. I forget what one
I
that was.
I think it was 93.
Yeah. So I remember, and it was
I
early
could
in the
be
game,
wrong.
made a tackle and dislocated his thumb, was compound fracture too, come through the skin and that to come off with all sorts of problems. I don't remember him going back on, but maybe he did. But that grand final was iconic too because Steve Renouf took that ball and ran off down the field. And you could see Ricky Walford chasing him as fast as he could, and he had nothing in the tank to chase him down. And that moment must still haunt Ricky Walford, who was one of the great wingers of the time too. Very, very good player and does a lot of stuff in Indigenous football programs and that stuff now as well.
Yeah, definitely, as does Steve Renouf as well, who scored the try. He always loves grand final time. It always gets replayed, that try, length of the field job. And I think it was 93 because I don't think Jason Stevens played in another grand final. So I think it was 93
Yeah.
that happened. And that was in the first minute of the game. And how disappointing for Jason would that have been to have a compound fracture and have to go off? It was amazing. I actually remember watching that. I think I watched that at Emu Plains, I think, um, at PJ Gallagher's, I think, and remember watching that game. But yeah, look, that was an iconic grand final, obviously for Brisbane. I think the late great Tina Turner was there as well. Um, and she did the entertainment there with the Simply the Best song, which was the ad at the time for the rugby league, and I think this year as well. I think it's pre-game. I think it's pre-game entertainment. I think the Tina Turner show is going to pay tribute to Tina.
Yeah.
Um, so a bit iconic that it's 30 years later that they're doing that. So
Yeah.
that'll be great to see. So yeah.
Yeah. Now we've got other grand finals like the trying to think which one it was. Manly played the Storm. Was that 2007? And they smoked them 40-0. Cameron Smith was suspended. Um, that's probably one of the
2000
worst blowouts I've ever seen. So in the grand final.
2008.
Yeah. So unbelievable stuff. 40-0. So they beat St George, beat I forget who it was, 38-0 in the grand final. Roosters, I think it was, Easts. And then that one 40-0. So I've never seen a more lopsided grand final like that. And the game was close until like I thought it was competitive, not close, but it was competitive till half time. And then once Manly started to get a roll on with it, the Storm were crushed. They were completely gone. So
Yeah, that was amazing. That one, as you said, to score 40 points in a grand final and to nil, absolutely amazing. As you said, I think Cameron Smith was suspended for that game. He did I think it was a chicken wing or something like that. Sam Thaiday in the game before against the Broncos. It was Steve Menzies' last NRL game as well. And he
yeah,
managed to get a try as well late in the game. He came off the bench. So, but yeah, to score 40 points in a grand final. I think Michael Robinson got three tries in that game. Um, yeah, that was amazing. 40 points in a grand final when you think that grand finals are going to be close. like today's one's going to be.
Yeah, when you look at today, realistically, both sides have got points to burn. So I look at both of their games in the lead up, the last two games leading into the major semis games. Um, Penrith beat the Warriors, and then Penrith went through and beat the Storm in pretty easy fashion. Now we saw the Broncos dispatch Newcastle. Sorry, they beat. It was Newcastle, wasn't
Melbourne, no, Melbourne,
it? Yeah, yeah. So they
Melbourne,
beat Melbourne.
26 nil.
Yeah, and they just did that. So they're the first. Not many sides have beaten Melbourne to nil. Melbourne are not the same side they were a couple of years ago, but that's a big feat to do that because Melbourne have got strike weapons all over the park. So they did that, and then they just won the major preliminary final to get into the grand final as well. So the big problem is they gave up a couple of really soft tries against the Warriors. So looking at what they're going to need to do against the Panthers today, if they defend like they did against the Warriors against the Panthers, I think the Panthers are going to have they're going to be able to score those tries. But the problem is how are Brisbane going to be able to stop Penrith from getting a roll on and getting momentum on the back of those tries? Because the Warriors never capitalised on it and gave up soft tries themselves, which just kept on letting Brisbane off the hook.
Yeah, so I think we've got the best defensive two teams and the best attacking two teams in the competition playing against each other. So, look, it's going to be interesting. I think Brisbane are going to need to get off to a good start. They're going to probably have to score first and just go off the back of that. But their defense is going to have to be on song. They can't give away soft tries, as you said. The Broncos, their completion rate is a little bit less than the Panthers, so they can't afford to give the Panthers more ball in this game if they're going to win this game. The I guess the Broncos' defense is pretty solid, has been this year, but this is a different team that they're playing, so they're just going to have to be on their toes, and they're just going to have to get the job done if they're going to stop these Panthers. As I said, start off good, start off fast. Maybe look at last year's grand final and just see that the Penrith forwards Moses Leota and James Fisher Harris sort of got on top of RCG and Junior Paolo and um, laid the foundation for the rest of the team. And the Panthers ended up scoring 20 odd points in the first half, I think it was. So um, they need to stop them from doing that tonight if they're going to be any chance of winning this game.
Yeah. So there's a lot of good grand finals on today as well. Who's the New South Wales up against? So that's South against which Brisbane side is it again?
Brisbane Tigers. So
Yeah.
they defeated the Burleigh Bears a couple of weeks ago up at Redcliffe.
Yeah. So how do we think that one's going to go? Like, because the Brisbane side's classically coming down. I think the last couple of years, like well, Penrith won it last year, but generally their sides are pretty competitive. Like we saw when the Walkers were coaching, I forget who they were coaching, but they had the Ipswich or whatever, and tell they just played aggressive in your face football, so they didn't get in the wrestle at all. So what that was doing was letting guys go to the ground, get up and play the ball quicker. But that's what they wanted to do is make them play differently. So
Yeah,
how do
it
we think this is going to go?
yeah, look, it's going to be an interesting game. I think the South Sydney Rabbitohs they just scraped in after beating the North Sydney Bears last weekend.
In the
I think it
last
was
minute too.
yeah. So I think both of their grand finals were very similar. I think the Brisbane Tigers they had to hold off the Burleigh Bears in the last minute to stop them from scoring to win the game. So very similar there. Look, the Brisbane Tigers, I think they're the feeder club for the Melbourne Storm. So I think there's a few Melbourne Storm players in there as well.
That's what I was
Um,
going to say. They got a few Melbourne Storm. They're the Melbourne Storm feeder club in Brisbane, aren't they?
yeah, so Riley Jacks, I think, is the captain of the side. I think Marion Seve is off the bench as well. So
Yeah,
They've got a couple there. So there's a sprinkling of NRL experience in there. But look, I guess not watching a lot of Q Cup. Watched the grand final, but other than that, not watching a lot of it. Um, I'm not 100% sure how it's going to go. It could be well, it is the unknown for me as to how it's going to go. Just by going off the grand final, well, it could be anybody's game. I think with both sides holding on in the last minute, and South scoring in the last minute, and Brisbane holding on in the last minute. So I think 7 years ago was the last time a Queensland side won the interstate challenge. So
yeah.
it's been a while. So it'll certainly be an interesting clash.
Yeah, I do like these games, but because these games, to see a lot of people kick on from these games and go and play NRL football, top quality NRL football, and beat some of the stars. So, as you say, that's what like grand final day really showcases. It's normally your first chance, if you're not at all the club games, to see the rising stars like the Jason Stevens. When we saw him playing for St George, he hadn't been playing for St George heaps that season, but was coming through, and he's more iconically tied in with Cronulla. But he started off at St George Illawarra, and there's plenty of guys that have done it over the years, come through lower level grand finals. You see them, don't think much of them, then they come out to be some of the superstars of the game.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. These games showcase the best reserve grade teams in the country, and I guess these days with the NRL, it probably you don't get to see that. I mean, as I said before, in the old days, you used to have all three grades played on the day. Obviously, there's more games being played these days, so it's a little bit harder. But we've been trying to get all three grades at NRL games. Obviously, the timings are not so specifically pretty good, but it'd be good to see all three grades at a game on game day. And you're right, you get to see players that you don't get to normally see, and it gives the other clubs an opportunity to see someone who they might not have thought of before, and they may end up playing in NRL.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's a good chance for the players to showcase themselves.
yeah. So the next game up that we want to talk about is the NRLW. So this is the one that's really got my interest because they've got a really strong Newcastle side. Roosters were the hot favourites all season, and they've got the dark horses in there, Gold Coast Titans, and I completely jumped on their bandwagon. So I'm hoping they get a win, just so the Titans have never won any level of competition, and I think it'd be great to break that bias with an NRLW premiership today.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's always good to see a team who hasn't won a comp before to win one. Uh, and the Gold Coast Titans have that opportunity today to do that in the NRLW. It's going to be tough against the defending premiers who are looking to go back to back. Excuse me. They got Tamika Upton, the Dally M winner for 2023 in their side, and they got the Southwell sisters as well. So Jessie Southwell's just been leading this team around all season. She's been kicking goals to win games, and she's had an outstanding season as well. And look, the Newcastle Knights, they've been there before. They know how to get the job done. It's all going to be up against the Gold Coast Titans. I think they'll be excited to be there. And as you said, they beat the Roosters last week. Nobody expected that. So they've got everything to win. Obviously, they've got a grand final to lose, but in sort of retrospect, they don't have anything to lose. They've got everything to gain. Um, Obviously, they want to win, but uh, so they're going with a fresh mind and an excited mind. They've got players that have played Origin and internationals as well, so a little bit of experience in that way. Look, they could give this team a bit of a shake. I think last time they played, it was only a 4 point game, so they can keep
Oh,
it.
definitely could go either way. Definitely could
Yeah,
go either way.
yeah. I mean, yeah, just with any type of football in grand finals, it's anyone on their day can, if they turn up, they can win. So look, I tip Newcastle in this one, but yeah, only just. But I wouldn't be too disappointed if Gold Coast get up and win.
Yeah, oh yeah, I definitely think there'll be a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon. There'll also be a lot of people jumping on the Knights because they want to support the New South Wales side. And there's nothing wrong with fever. And I just like that we're seeing changing teams at the moment in the NRLW Grand Finals because it's showing the depth of talent is changing. It's getting distributed around. So this is good for the competition. If you had the same two or three sides fighting it out every single year all the time, then we've got a little bit of a problem. So
Yeah,
this will be,
well, the Broncos, they ended up winning the first three competitions, and then the Roosters won one, and now it's Newcastle has won one. So you're right. It's great to see different teams fighting it out and in the grand final and spreading that talent around, and definitely with the 10 teams in the competition now that they are being spread out now. So yeah, no, it's good to see another team in the grand final this year with the Gold Coast Titans. It should be a cracker.
yeah. Then the bit, there's no under 20s or nothing, is there? We're not missing anything here at the moment.
No, there's only the three games on
Yeah,
today, the two that we spoke about, and the NRL
yeah.
grand final.
So the big game, we'll roll through the lineups here. So at 7:30 p.m. tonight, you're going to see the Panthers put out their side. Looks like this from one to we'll go right to 19 as well because I'm interested at who's on the extended bench. Dylan Edwards one got Turavea is in two. He's got Isaac Tago three, Stephen Crichton four, Brian Toto five, Jerome Luai six, Nathan Cleary seven, Moses Leota eight, Mitch Kenny nine, James Fish Harris 10, Scott Sorensen 11, Liam Martin 12, Isaiah Yeo 13, and got Jack Cogger on the bench at 14, Lindsay Smith 15, who's a bit of a surprise packet. He's been very good for Penrith this year, surprised me a bit. Spencer Leonard last game for Penrith before he goes to the Roosters, and Luke Garner in 17, and got Tyrone Peachy in 18, which I think is a strategic choice. He's sitting there. So I'll be thinking they're still got concerns with injuries, maybe not even around Jerome Luai. Maybe there's someone else that's carrying some sort of injury because I thought Tyrone probably got enough experience and done enough maybe to get a bench spot. And 19's Matt Eisenhuth, who will be a forward reserve if something else happens to any of the players. So, are you expecting to see any last minute changes?
Nah, I don't think so. I think it'll be 1 to 17 uh, on in this game. It's pretty much the full strength side. In regards to Tyrone, well, I think he has been there before for the Panthers when obviously State of Origin came around and he had to fill in there, and obviously the injury to Jerome Luai, he was there as well. So I don't think there's any surprises in this side in terms of who's made it. But you're right, Lindsay Smith, he's had a great year. Probably will end up being Penrith's Rookie of the Year. He
Yep,
was unlucky not to get the Dally M Rookie of the Year, but he would be close to getting the Rookie of the Year. He's had a great year. Um, yeah, it's just a full-on strong side. I think there's 11 players, I think, in this side that have played in all or will play in all four grand finals. So they
that's
do,
massive. That's a massive stat.
yeah, yeah. So they do have that massive experience. So um, it's a pretty strong lineup.
Yeah. So roll through the Broncos now. Got Reece Walsh in one, Jesse Arthurs in two, Katoni Staggs in three, Herbie Farnworth four, Selwyn Cobbo five, Ezra Mam in six, Adam Reynolds seven. So that's their strongest backline too. Tom Flegler eight, Billy Walters nine, Payne Haas 10, Kurt Capewell 11, Jordan Ricky 12, Pat Carrigan 13. Then we got Tyson Smoothie 14. We've got Piakura in 15, Brendan Piakura. Got KB Hetherington in 16. Keenan Palacia in 17, then got uh, Corey Oates back in 18, and Martin Tapau in 19 there. So I don't think they're going to change anything. I'm not aware of Brisbane having any injuries or anything either. So, uh, how big a deal do you think it is for Marty Tapau to be involved with the Broncos, even though he's not in the actual starting lineup today, but be in the squad? So, after some of the things he's had go on in his career, unfortunately, in the last year and a bit, must be good he's been able to turn it around.
Yeah, look, he's played a few games this season for the Broncos in first grade, and I guess it's a little bit like Adam Reynolds, a bit of a new lease of life up in Queensland for him. I think it's his third or fourth club that he's at now, so he will be wanting to maybe find a home up there to maybe finish off his career. He's been around for a while, but he did have that crazy event against the Dolphins, I think it was, with the knee lift that saw him suspended, I think, for 3 weeks. So, look, this will be good for him. He's, to be in and around this side, he's obviously got experience and he can obviously coach the or help coach the young Brisbane forwards. Um, but yeah, it'll be if you ask him, he'd love being up there.
Yeah. So if we look at the Broncos line, we'll look at Broncos first because we know Penrith got strike weapons all over the place. I think for the Broncos to get this grand final, they're going to need to go forward through, obviously, Tom Flegler. Billy Walters not your normal number 9, just pick up and distribute like Benny Elias or even run. So he'll mix his game up and could potentially play second row too if needed to. But I think the big ticket stuff is going to come down. Did say the other day, potential Dally M medal winners, if you want to jump on someone, a bit of a smoky, you'd be looking at a Pat Carrigan, Kurt Capewell, maybe like a Katoni Staggs, right? So someone that's going to get the job done. And when you look at who they're stacking up against, you got Kurt Capewell against Scott Sorensen. Kurt Capewell has been outstanding for Queensland. Every time he's had to lift the bar in the games, he's stepped up. So I'm expecting, and he played for Penrith in the grand final, he's going to be able to step up as well, right? He's going to be up to the task. If Payne Haas goes forward and they got guys going to cause problems in the middle edge forwards, it'll be someone like him and Pat Carrigan, potentially Jordan Ricky, are going to be the guys that are going to open up the game for the outside backs to get in. Is that how you think you're seeing it too at the moment?
Yeah, look, there's two big front rowers on each side that are going to have a massive battle. Tom Flegler and Moses Leota and Payne Haas and James Fisher Harris. So they're the that's going to be a massive clash between those two. As I said before, Payne Haas and Flegler have got to get over the top of Leota and Fisher Harris because um, if not, they will, and Penrith will end up having lots of space out the back and let the backs do their work. So that's going to be an awesome clash there. We know, as you said, Pat Carrigan, he's a 80-minute machine. He can keep on going up against Isaiah Yo, who we know is another 80-minute machine as well. So that's a great clash there. Um, Kurt Capewell playing up against his old club. He won a premiership with Penrith, so that'll be interesting how he'll go up against them. I'm sure he'll want to get one up on them. But you said there he steps up. Well, he's played centre before for Queensland, so he's got the experience there. But I think for Penrith, they'll probably have to watch. Obviously, the obvious one is Reece Walsh at the back there with his speed. And when he injects himself into the back line, that's just going to be they're going to be on their toes for that one. I'm sure they've got a game plan for him. I think Selwyn Cobbo, he can score a try or two. He's been known to score a try or two, so he knows how to score tries. And then you got Adam Reynolds, who just leads the team around with his kicking game. So he can kick long, he can kick short, he can kick high, he can kick low. So he's a little general of this side, so
Yeah.
um, he'll be wanting to perform better than Nathan Cleary, that's for sure. But it's a hard task to do that.
Yeah, 100%. So I definitely think that the more I look at it, right, it's gonna if Brisbane's going to get someone that's going to change it, the guy that could do it, it'll be Kurt Capewell, I think, because he just does it again and again and again and again. State of Origin, you put him, he could be playing not flash for club, go to State of Origin, steps it up. Big games when needs to do it, steps it up. Did it for Penrith in the finals and grand final. He just steps up that level. I would think he would be the equivalent of probably Isaiah Yeo. So if I was looking for if you want a favourite for Dally M medal, I would think it looking at Brisbane's side, if you go outside the box a little bit of Adam Reynolds or Reece Walsh, because I think the game's going to be won in the forwards here, not the backs. The backs might ice it, right? But Brisbane's not going to win if they don't get over the top of Penrith's forwards. And so I think that would put Kurt Capewell nearly as a favourite for Dally M medal winner there on its own. So if you want a bit of an outside shot, look at a Jordan Ricky or Pat Carrigan if you got $5, $10 to spare. Penrith, I'm going to call a bit of a darky here, dark horse of
Okay.
as someone to get something big. So I'm looking at the bench at Jack Cogger. So I think Penrith are going to have something different. If I actually think the person who will win the game will be on the platform of what said the big props to Leota and James Fisher Harris. Um, I think James Fisher Harris has the best chance of a prop ever to win the Dally M medal if Penrith can dominate Brisbane, because I think the game will be in the forward still. And the realistic choice for Dally M medal winner out of Penrith side will probably be, if Penrith win, of course, will be Isaiah Yeo. Because I think it's gonna be his offloads and his distribution. It's his extra work that he does that opens up the stuff for the outside backs all of the time. So, but that's on the back of what Leota and James Fisher Harris are doing, rolling through the middle of the team. So it lets the fourth tackle option, Isaiah Yeo, hit the line wide and then be distributing the ball. But I still think Isaiah Yeo is going to be the guy. Yeah, if the X factor thing I think is Jack Cogger. So if the
Okay.
game's tight,
Interesting.
I think he's going to pick up some stragglers, and I think he's going to have a really massive game before he goes back to Newcastle.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he goes and how Penrith use him because I don't think they'll. He'll probably maybe come on for Mitch Kenny. I think they'll interchange, but it just depends on how long Kenny stays on the field for. But you're right; it's handy having him on the bench there as a replacement because then you got Luai, Cleary, and then Cogger as well, and with everyone concentrating on Luai and Cleary, as you said, maybe it might be Cogger who breaks open the game and
Yeah,
yeah, it just has a massive impact off the bench. So it'll be
yeah,
interesting to see how he goes. Obviously, Isaiah Yeo is one of the favourites for the Clive Churchill medal. Nathan Cleary, Dylan Edwards, who won it last year as well. Some people think he might go back to back. Um, I'm going to go for Pat Carrigan. I think he'll get the. I think Brisbane will get the win, and I think he'll get the Clive Churchill medal.
yeah. That's a pretty fair call. So I do know. So I'll put another one here so you can bet the shit having those anytime try scores. Stephen Crichton, the money is good for Stephen Crichton to get a try. So he's got the ability to do it. I think he'll have a big game before he goes to Canterbury. Is his last game for the Panthers. So I'd expect to see a couple of big games from some of the boys out here. I don't think anyone. It's going to be another 2015 style grand final. This one, I think. I'll be very surprised, regardless where Penrith win or Broncos win. If it was a blowout, I'd be astonished. There'd need to be someone get sent off for it to be a blowout, and the send off would need to be a big player like a Cleary or Reynolds or someone big, one of the props, James Fisher Harris or Payne Haas. I just can't see someone getting sent off. Not in the modern day, so it's not likely to happen.
No, not in the modern day. I think I can't remember when the last one was, but I definitely know that Phil Sigsworth got sent off in the '86 grand final um, for a high tackle on Brett Kenny. I can't remember if there's been any others recently. There might have been a few sin bins, but
Yeah,
um, look, I think Herbie Farnworth will score the first try in the game. I think he'll be a first try for Brisbane. I think Brisbane will win 18-14. It's gonna be a close game, and as I said, Pat Carrigan for the Clive Churchill medal. But look, if Brisbane don't stop Penrith forwards, then they won't go on to win the game. So
yeah,
they've got to try and stop them and not give the backs the space, and not give Nathan Cleary space, and they've got a pressure kick on his kicks as well. We've seen in the news lately about Penrith's blockers on the fifth tackle. Uh, Wonder if that'll come into play by first grand final for Adam G as well. So
yeah.
congratulations to him. He's got the
It's an
whistle.
interesting stat with Adam G. They reckon that Penrith won 90% of the games that he's refereed.
Yeah, but Penrith have also been winning sort of 90% of their games as well.
Yeah,
So Brisbane over the same period haven't had that good a winning record either. So
yeah,
it gets a little bit skewed. So um, yeah, I wouldn't take those stats into play at all. I
yeah,
just think, that's a bit
yeah.
bit far fetched. But um, yeah, so Adam G's in control. So look, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But
Yeah.
yeah, I
So
don't know. It could be a toss of the coin to be honest. But I'll go with Brisbane.
100%. I think if Brisbane win it, they're going to have to do what West Tigers have been able to do to Penrith a couple times last couple of years, and that's literally shut them out from scoring. So if you can make Penrith have to do something different, and Brisbane did it against Warriors, they played off the cuff, hit the line, tackle nearly completed, bang, pop, and offload. That's going to make Penrith have to change how they defend. Like Penrith are very methodical, textbook, everything. So you make them have to play outside of that, then you're going to get a different outcome in the game.
Or just watch Parramatta. They've beaten them 4 times in the last 2 years. So watch
Yeah, I don't
their
know.
game.
I
But
don't know what happens if Penrith won't play Parramatta. Just pack the queue in the rack. We do it against West Tigers too. I just don't understand it.
I think you're right there. The offload game really sort of startles Penrith. And we saw Brisbane last week against the Warriors. I think it was 18-4 offload. So if they can get that game happening again, well, then that second phase play will definitely help them with Reece Walsh in the background, and anything can happen then.
yeah. So if Brisbane win, I think the score is going to be 16-12 because I think they're going to have to literally grind it out. And I reckon Kurt Capel will beat Dalian player of the match. First try, I'll go for Katoni Staggs because I think there'll be big psychological stuff if one of the centre scores because Isaac Tago and Steve Crichton are very good. If Penrith win, I still think it's going to be close, but I think the score's going to be, I think it'll be like 30-26 or 32-26. There's going to be a few more tries in this. And I don't think it'll get blown away at all. I think the score's going to be close. The worst thing that happened the Parramatta last year, Penrith tapped them up a bit, and Parramatta got tries back. So a lot of people went, "Oh, they're really, really good." Parramatta should have done what they were doing the 60th to the 80th minute. They started doing that in the first minute. They might have got the win, right? So because they started offload, they did exactly what Brisbane going to do: offload the ball, hit and spin offload in tackles, and they got tries from it. So
Yeah,
I could see
definitely.
that working. And if Brisbane can do that, I think they have got a serious chance of being successful. Penrith get the Dally M. I'm sorry, if Penrith get the win, I think, yeah, Isaiah Yeo is going to get the Dally M. So,
Well, it's going to be a nice hot day here in Sydney. I think it's 36 degrees or something like that.
yeah,
Ground's going to be nice and fast, and the Brisbane will be thinking they might be playing up at Suncorp. So
yeah,
the groundskeeper as
yeah.
Adakor has come out and said that this could favour Brisbane because they'll be nice and fast, and we'll see some free flowing footy played tonight.
There you go. So that's our hot tip. So you watch, we've done this before,
So
and
we'll have to see what
it
happens.
come up very short. So all over the place with our tips. So with Origin and stuff like that. So we'll see how we go with this one
That's it.
later tonight. Troy, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it as always. Always good to have a chat.
Yeah.
Anything you want to shout out to both sets of fans, so see if you can get berated by anybody?
Oh, look, just enjoy the day, enjoy the game, and look at to the victors go the spoils, and look to the Penrith fans, enjoy the game, and if you guys win, well, then you get the three-peat, and the dynasty continues, and you know how you guys know how to celebrate. To the Brisbane fans, if you win, well then you'll be the king of the NRL, and then enjoy it. I was in that position last year with Parramatta going up against this Penrith side, so even if you lose, look, you will be disappointed, but it's still a massive achievement to make the grand final. So enjoy the day, enjoy the grand final day, and yeah, don't necessarily follow our tips, but if you want to, go right ahead and let us know. But yeah, it'd be an interesting game and. Can't wait. What are we now? Not 9:30. So what's that? About 10 hours away. So the
Yes, yeah.
countdown is on.
Yeah. So give a shout out to Broncos fans. Just want to say Brisbane sucks. So no, I hope Penrith win, but if Broncos win, it's good overall for the whole game. Um, I think Panthers fans don't peak too early and get on it too early. I've already seen a couple of people on the cans getting interviewed on TV and that stuff, doing hooning around down at Jamison Park and that. Broncos fans enjoy the moment because special. You're not always in the grand finals. No guarantee you're in it. And embrace the moment. Enjoy the day. We kick on a barbecue and let's hope there's some good
And
quality football get played.
if you're not a fan of either team, rugby league's the winner.
Yeah, rugby league is the winner. So some really good games on today, and make sure you catch all three games. So there's going to be really good football. And shout out, go to Titans. Let's go. Let's go Titans for the NRLW.
Yeah, no, I might even jump on that bandwagon as well.
That's it. All right, Troy, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
No
Keep on
worries.
ducking, everyone. This will be going on air later tonight and also going to go on Duckman TV today on YouTube and Facebook. So keep on ducking. Have a fabulous day, and I'll chat to you later on, Troy.
Thanks, Duckman.